Hey, we need to talk. Um, One of the things that I've been seeing a lot in the disability space is that far too often when we talk about disability, we talk about disability within the individual. And very rarely do we talk about how our disability affects those around us. Within the context of today's video, I want to talk specifically about how my disability has affected my family. And I'm going to break this down into 3 different ways. First is financially. My hearing disability has affected my family financially tremendously. When I was growing up, I was receiving hearing and speech therapy, which is why very often when I'm talking with someone, if I have my hair covering my hearing equipment just like this, you don't see it. It is very difficult sometimes for someone who doesn't know me to know that I have a hearing disability if I have not disclosed. Speech and hearing therapy can be expensive, and if you don't have the resources, you're probably not going to be able to get that level of privilege to be able to improve your speech and your hearing. A lot of people have this misconception that, oh, you go and you get a cochlear implant surgery and you hear again and it's magic, and it does not work like that at all. It takes time for the brain to be able to process sound. So financially, I've been a burden in my family. I'm very conscious of that. All of that money that was spent for speech and hearing therapy was money that could have been used for a trip to Disneyland or for us to afford a better living situation. But that was not what the money was used for. It was used for Mariela's speech and hearing therapy. And that was a burden on my family, a financial burden, and not a burden that just anyone can afford. And a lot of people just have this misconception that, like, oh, I'm just affecting myself personally. Like, you're not. If you work within a family structure, your disability can be a financial burden to your family. Next, I want to talk about the burden that I've placed on my sister. So my sister, her name is Eliana. She also went to NYU. Right now, she is a nurse at one of the most prestigious hospitals in New York City, and she's amazing and talented and brilliant. Now, when we were growing up, Eliana saw firsthand, and my sister is my biggest advocate, by the way. My sister saw firsthand all of the challenges that I was experiencing as a person with a hearing disability. I remember a few instances when we were in middle school. I had no friends in middle school. None. Like, I had 1 or 2 friends, but like, I had no friends. And the reason for that was because when I was in middle school and junior high school, I had lost my hearing significantly, like, recently. And so I was this kid in this new country, learning the language, learning the culture, recently implanted hearing with this metal thing in my ear. It was basically like the magnet, and then a long cord. Like, literally, I was walking around with this long cord that was like this, and then I had a big boombox thing, like, that I was carrying around everywhere, and it was annoying, and I was super self-conscious about it. And I was super self-conscious that there was a piece of metal in my ear, and all I wanted was to just be normal, just like the other kids. And I was very shy. I was so shy. I had no friends at all. And all the kids in my elementary school, they thought I was just stuck-up person. And I wasn't. I was just shy, and I was dealing with, like, self-esteem issues. And I was bullied a lot in elementary school. And then, I bloomed and became this gorgeous fox. But anyway, in elementary school, we had these big lunch tables. And I would basically sit by myself and read during the whole lunch period because no one would talk to me. But then my sister, she was in the 4th grade, and she was, like, in another big long table in another part of the cafeteria. And she would, like, my sister was with the cool kids. I was not with the cool kids. And my sister would just, like, ask me to go sit with her. And it was like, of course, that affected her because my sister, like my mom was always telling my sister, take care of your sister, be there for your sister, here for your sister. And, you know, that affected my sister. That was a burden to place on like a 10-year-old. Like, to tell, like my sister was my keeper. Like, my sister, I am my sister's keeper, but my sister is also my keeper. Like, my sister, as a 10-year-old, as a 7-year-old, as a 13-year-old, was responsible for taking care of me, her older sister who was deaf and had a disability. That affected her. My sister is one of the most mature people I've ever known. Like, she has an old person mind. But the reason for that is that she had to become that person. And we very rarely talk about the impact of a disabled child in the family structure. My sister wasn't able to do all of the trips that she wanted to Disney World because all of that money was being used in Mariella, was being invested in Mariella. That affected her. My mom, likewise, when I was going to all of my appointments, my mom didn't have time to, you know, take ESL classes, English as a second language classes, because it was always like, Mariela has an appointment. Mariela has this thing. We have to take Mariela downtown. We have to take Mariela to the NYU Cochlear Implant Center. We have to take Mariela this and this and this. She has like 10 different appointments in 1 week. That affected my mom. That affected her professional development because my mom was so busy being a mom to Mariela. That affected, like my hearing disability has affected every single facet of my family. Like, even like I was hanging out with my boyfriend, and Andy loves board games. He loves board games, and every time we hang out with his friends, we play board games. But the thing is, I have hardly played board games. I've never played Monopoly. My family has never played Monopoly. Do you know why we've never played Monopoly? Because Monopoly is one of those games where it's just about like talking and listening to instructions and having a conversation. And those things are so hard for me, and I can get confused really quick. Do you know what games we play in my family? We play Trouble. We play dominoes. We play like simple board games where directions are just like simple, where you don't have to depend on your hearing so much. And these things have affected my family. And even more so, I think about how my relationship affects my ability to choose partners. Like, back when I was dating, I'm not dating now because I'm in a relationship with someone really wonderful. His name is Andy. But back when I was dating, and like when I was on Tinder, I had to the people that I would date, I would have to tell them, hey, I have a hearing disability. Is that an issue for you? Because there are people that don't want to date someone with a disability. Point blank, they just don't. It's just that, just like there are people that don't want to date black people, I don't want to date someone who is like of another religion, there are also people who don't want to date someone who is disabled. And that is their prerogative. They're missing out on all this. But that's their prerogative. And that's something I have to disclose when I'm dating someone. Hey, I have a hearing disability. Is that an issue for you? And it also, like, my disability also affects my ability to, my financial stability. As a person with a disability, I cannot just do every single job. My sister, my friends who don't have disabilities, they could, resign tomorrow and they could find a job at a call center, like make some quick money, work as a waitress, whatever. For me, as a person with a hearing disability, I need to be very conscious about what kind of jobs I can do, because I can't do every job. Like, jobs that require me to talk on the phone are hard. That's out. I can't be in a job where I have to be on the phone a lot. And those are the easiest jobs to get. I can't be in a job where I have to listen to oral commands a lot, because that's really difficult for me. So like, if I lost my job, God forbid, tomorrow, I can't just go to like a retail store where, you know, you have like the little walkie-talkies, because I won't be able to understand what people are saying. And that is something that my partner has to account for as a person with a disability. Like, one of the things I worry about is when I have my own children and my child is crying in the middle of the night, I don't sleep with my hearing equipment on. I don't hear anything at all when I don't have my hearing equipment. So I could potentially be having a baby that is crying for 8 hours straight and I don't hear a thing. And that's scary. My hearing disability doesn't just affect me. It doesn't just affect me. It adds a burden that people around me sometimes have to pick up. A burden that they didn't ask for. Like, I'm sure my mom, like, if she could have had a normal child that didn't have a disability, so that we could have taken like as many Disney vacations and she could have like invested her time in her nursing career, like, I wish that for her. I wish we could have been able to do that, but that was not our reality. And that's something that I have to recognize, that my family has made sacrifices for me. And I'm not going to paint this as if, as a person with a hearing disability, I'm the only one who suffered, because I'm not. My disability has added a burden to my family that they didn't ask for. My disability adds a burden to my relationship that my boyfriend didn't ask for. My disability adds a burden to my employer that they didn't ask for. But the question is, as a society, as a family, as partners, are they willing to accommodate me? Are they willing to accommodate me? How can we find compromises? Because, you know, as a 7-8-year-old child, I didn't ask to become deaf. I didn't ask to have a disability. I didn't ask to be disabled in a world that wasn't accommodating. Being a person with a disability is hard. Being the parent of a child with a disability is hard. Being the sibling of someone with a disability is hard. Being the partner of someone with a disability is hard. Let's talk about those things. Let's find solutions to those problems. Let's make the world more accessible, more equitable, better. And with that said, that's today's video. Until next time. Bye.